Hi, I'm Extraayogurt and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new, then welcome back. And today we are doing another building and design tips episode where we talk about outdoor additions and roofing this time around. So there's a lot to go over, but I've pre-built all of the examples to try to spend as little time as possible building and more time talking to you guys and kind of explaining and giving you guys some ideas. So this idea started with me just wanting to quickly explain the difference between porches and patios, and then it kind of snowballed into me wanting to explain all these different specific types of outdoor additions. So some of these were new to me and a lot of them I had heard before but didn't quite understand the differences. So I hope this video is helpful and kind of helps your creative kind of thought process. So we have porches, we have patios, decks, lanais, verandas, pergolas, sunrooms and solariums, and gazebos. Also, I'm not sure, like region to region, what the different terms would be, but I'm just familiar with these different terms. So I'm sure once I show you guys, maybe it's called something different where you're from, but yeah. So anyway, let's start with the first. Well, first off, let me address this. As you can see, I'm a victim of pink soup, and some of you guys gave me some tips on how to avoid this issue, and I really appreciate that, and I'm going to definitely give it a try. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about talk about porches on this lot. All right, so porches, very basic, very common. Basically, the way it's defined is that it's attached to the house and it either shares a roof with the house or has the same roof as the rest of the house. If it's on the second story or higher, you might just call it a balcony. But yeah, it can be on foundation, it can be directly on the ground. Kind of what I noticed, the main difference is that it shares a roof with the house, and it's attached to the house. So this is very common. I'm sure you guys have either built this a lot or seen this a lot. I'm actually annoyed at how cute some of these example houses came out, because it makes me wish that I made them into their own individual build instead of just using it as a example. But yeah, I tried to do a little bit of light furnishing and landscaping to give you guys just a nice idea of what I'm talking about. So as you can see, although this one doesn't share the roof with the house, the roof is the same and it's attached. This one actually shares one roof and is attached and is on foundation as well. So yeah, these are really cute, really common, really easy. Yeah, and they don't necessarily need to have fencing or columns. It's just that these porches were a little bit bigger, and so I wanted to make sure there were columns. Also, by the way, I myself don't even use the correct terms, so it doesn't really matter. The whole idea of this video is just to give different examples and different ideas of things to build. And it is kind of cool to know the different names for each thing. But it really doesn't matter. I call everything a patio or a porch. But anyway, yeah, these are some cute examples, and let's move on to our next one, which is patios. Okay, so what is a patio? A patio is not always attached to the house, but it can be. It can be anywhere outdoors. It does not share a roof. Actually, it's typically uncovered, and it's usually either paved or has brick. So I've built these two examples. This first example, I've made the patio, I've put it on the back of the house, attached to the house, and it's really cute. And I also think it's cost effective if you're working with a budget, because all you need to do is add some floor tiles and you have yourself a patio. Once again, I've done a little bit of decorating and kind of tried to dress it up. to give you a better idea, I feel like patios are great for places where there is little to no snow, or really, you know, more predictable weather, I guess. So yeah. Now, in the second example, I've made the patio completely detached from the house and just added a little walkway. Yeah, it's just uncovered and off in the backyard, kind of. I've dressed it up a little bit to make it look more private. Yeah, I think this is really cute. Sorry I moved the camera a lot, guys. Let me just stop touching my mouse for a second. But yeah, I really like patios. Like I said, if your neighborhood is like summer all year round, I feel like this is a great way to go. Let's get into our next example, which is decks. All right, so what is a deck? It is usually attached to the house. The foundation is typically, the foundation of a deck is typically only built to support the deck itself. It's usually uncovered, and the flooring of the deck is made to withstand the elements. So you might see wood or some kind of like plastic composite flooring or something like that. But it's uncovered, so it has to be able to withstand rain and snow and everything. Also, I read that it's usually added after the construction of the house. So yeah, let's take a look at these homes. They're both very, very cute. I was really proud of this blue one. I don't know, I like it a lot. It's very cute. So on the front here, this would be a porch. This would also be a porch. But on the back, we have decks. Now on the blue house, as you can see, the main house has a brick foundation, while the deck has this wooden stilt foundation, which I felt like was a good representation of what a deck typically is. The floor covering is wood, and yeah, this is really cute. I lived in Utah for a few years of my life, and this kind of house was very common there, because there's so many mountains. Everything is built on a mountain, so this is typically the kind of thing that you'd see, because it works really well when you're building on elevated terrains. So in this example, we just have a foundation level deck, which I used a different wall covering. I've used tan siding to try to emphasize the idea that it's its own separate material. And same thing, wood planks. It definitely, I'm sure you can imagine, it looks like it was added after this house was built. Yeah, so it kind of has like a detached look, but it's still very cohesive with the rest of the build. These houses are super, super cute. I love them so much. So yeah. Okay, our next thing is something that's a little bit less common, but it is called a lanai. So let's look at our example house for a lanai. Okay, so what is a lanai? Lanai is a Hawaiian word to describe basically an outdoor space that has like a kind of like a seamless transition from the indoor space. Technically, it's not wrong to call it a covered porch, but I like this term. It kind of, I don't know, it makes sense to me. Fun fact, I was born in Hawaii and I lived there for quite a while, so I've heard this term a lot, and so I have an image that pops into my head when I hear the word lanai. So I've done my best to kind of make more of a Hawaiian style of home. So I added a bunch of trees and everything. Now, I've done a lot more furnishing for this example to try to drive home the point. So basically, I know there's a bunch of trees, so it's hard to see. I'm actually going to delete some of them so I can show you guys better. All right, so this back area is the lanai, and when I put the roof down, you can see how this is meant to be inside of the house. This half here beyond the windows, this is all meant to be inside of the house, and you have that seamless transition onto the lanai. Of course, in real life, there would be some maybe like sliding doors here or glass doors, but I just bulldozed it completely just to kind of try to drive home the point that it's meant to be like an indoor-outdoor space. I think this kind of thing is also common in Florida, or really anywhere that has a very humid and tropical climate, where that kind of open airflow is encouraged in buildings. So yeah, I think it looks really cute. I tried my best to make it look more Hawaiian without going over the top. So hopefully you guys get the idea of what a lanai is. Let me try to get a better view here. And then of course, I'm sure you can imagine there's like a bunch of mosquitoes and everything flying in, and flies and everything, which, I mean, honestly, in tropical climates, I think is pretty normal. So yeah. All right, so let's get into our next thing, which is going to be a veranda. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's okay. Let's look at our example house. All right, so what is a veranda or veranda? It is attached to the house. It has the same roof as the house or shares a roof with the house. And you might notice it looks just like a porch, but the main kind of thing is, one, it typically covers multiple sides of the house, and it's more narrow, kind of like a hallway or breezeway. So in this build, I chose to just have the veranda on the front and the right side of the home, but I'm sure you guys have seen ones that wrap all the way around, ones that wrap around 3 sides and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to make this more farm style home, which is why I put that kind of fence in the back, and tried to make it look a little bit more worn. I think this is super cute, but yeah, this would be considered a veranda. I hate that I feel like I'm saying that word wrong, but yeah. So let's get into our next topic, which is a pergola. Okay, so what is a pergola? It is a wooden structure. It can also be like some kind of combination of plastic and something else, but typically a wooden structure, not always attached to the house, but it can be, and it has completely open airflow. It's usually not really covered by anything. In fact, I'm not certain of the like functional purpose of a pergola. I think it is just kind of a design thing. Not certain on that, but I have kind of built my own pergola. Actually, I built a pergola on one of my houses before without even knowing what it was called, and one of you guys helped me with the name. So this is like I guess more new for me. And I left an open space over here, which I guess you could call this a patio, so that I could show you guys how to build a pergola without CC, of course, because there are ones that you can just download, but I actually built this with columns and these little ceiling pieces, and I'm not sure what pack they came from, but anyway, let me quickly show you guys how to build your own pergola. And yes, the Sims can indeed walk under it, and everything under it functions properly. So you're going to first turn on move objects, and if you could spell, then this will be even faster. All right, so then you're gonna go to your columns, this big chunky one here. I'm thinking this was with mansion and garden stuff. I'm not certain, but or glamour life maybe. Anyway, choose the color that you want. Put your columns down, and then you're gonna go to this architecture section and find the big wooden block that matches. And literally all I did was this. And there you have it, your very own homemade pergola. But yeah, like I said, I don't really know like the functional idea behind it, but I do think it looks very cute. It kind of gives me like resort vibes, or just really nice garden or backyard. So yeah, I really gave this lot a lot of backyard space, and I actually kind of like it. I don't typically do this with my builds. Yeah, so let's move on to our next thing, which is sunrooms and solariums. All right, so what is a sunroom and what is a solarium? Basically, it's a room covered with windows, very big windows, not always completely ceiling to floor, but a lot of times they will cover the entire wall. And sunrooms typically have the same roofing as the rest of the home, while solariums will typically have glass roofs. So this first house here, I have made a sunroom. As you can see, it shares the same roof as the rest of the home, and although it has very large windows all around, they do not completely go floor to ceiling, and you could still consider that a sunroom. Isn't that just so cute? And I purposely made it, added it to a very small house because I wanted to emphasize that you don't have to have a big fancy house to add all these cool little additions, and it can still look very, very nice. So now in this home, I have added a solarium. Like I said before, I don't even use the correct terms pretty much ever. I might start using the right terms now that I know them, but just for creative building ideas, I wanted to talk about all the different things. So I made this interesting little house, and in the back here we have a solarium. Now, to make the ceiling glass, I use this floor tile, which is a piece of CC by Jenny Hayes on Mod The Sims, and it will be in the description. Just remember, when you're using these see-through floor tiles, to also go under and make sure that you use the same tile for the ceiling. Otherwise, it won't truly be a see-through ceiling, like so. So now you can see through from the bottom and from the top. But anyway, I thought it would be really cute to put a bird cage here. I just feel like putting your bird cage in a solarium makes so much sense. So they feel like they're outside. And I just added some couches along the windows. Also, this one I use floor to ceiling windows. And yeah, I think it's a really nice addition. Also, whenever I make sunrooms or solariums, I just use kind of the same door I would for a patio or a back porch. But of course you could use a regular door if you wanted to. But anyway, let's get into our next and last type of outdoor addition, which is our gazebos. All right, so what is a gazebo? Separate from the home, it's fenced and covered, and it is not always on foundation. It can be on the ground as well. I haven't built houses for these. I just built 2 gazebos. So this first one, this small one, is just a very basic standard gazebo that you might see at a park or like a wedding venue or something like that. And then this one, I wanted to make just like the most massive gazebo that I could, to show you this would still be considered a gazebo, even though it is quite large. And something like this you'd often see at parks that are that cater to like big groups or big events. And you might see a bunch of tables here, maybe some grills. And I've added some little windows at the top just to add more detail. I think this is really, really cute. And honestly, before we move on to roofing, I do want to show you guys one build where I incorporated both a gazebo and a sunroom. All right, so this is one of the most recent builds I did where I incorporated both a gazebo and a sunroom. In the back here, you can see added a little gazebo with a grill and table. And then this sunroom here, which of course is a sunroom because it shares the same roof as the house. And I've just made it into a secondary dining room. So I really like this house. I was very proud of it. I think it's really cute, and I think it's cool that it has both of these little features on such a small lot. So yeah, as you guys can see, you can do a lot and add a lot to your builds if you just consider some different outdoor additions. So yeah, I hope you guys got some ideas from that and maybe learned some new terms, even though, like I said, it doesn't really matter what you call it. You know, we all get the idea of what it's supposed to be. So now we're gonna move on to some roofing tips, and yeah. All right, moving on to roofing or roofing. I'm not sure which it is, but I'm gonna say roofing. Before we even touch the roof tools, we're gonna talk about invisible support really quick. And what I mean by that is basically when you put your columns and you're ready to add your ceiling and you just don't have enough squares to support the space that you want covered. Well, just go ahead and place some columns there where you need support, and you can delete them and the game handles it just fine. Of course, one thing to remember is once you do that, any areas that aren't supported, you can no longer edit the floor tiles one by one. You'll have to go to a supported area and hold shift and then cover the entire area. Same kind of thing goes for the ceiling. I can't change those unsupported tiles. I have to hold shift to fill the space. So just a quick refresher, and very important to know when dealing with roofing. So you don't even need to have any columns at all, and it'll be just fine. Something I like to do a lot actually is I'll completely build out the patio space that I want as a room. Say I wanted a covered porch here, and I just build it out as a room, add the ceiling, continue building the house however I want it to be, and then when I'm ready I can delete the walls and add columns where I want. Of course, this looks very wacky, but you guys get the idea. So yeah, just something to remember, and there's always invisible support and something to think about before you start adding your roof. So once you go into your roofing tools, you'll see auto roof and this roof type section, which is just your manual roofing options. Auto roof gets a bad reputation, I feel like, because it makes some interesting things sometimes, but I feel like it can be your friend if you're really struggling with what kind of roof you want. You can always add an auto roof to kind of get you started and just sledgehammer the pieces that you don't like. So I don't like how this slants down straight into the wall there, because if it rains, snows, you don't really want that moisture building up here. Of course, in real life, sometimes I just take the game a little bit too seriously, but you guys know what I mean. This doesn't make sense to me. So for that reason, I can sledgehammer that. Whoops. I can sledgehammer that, go into my manual roof tools and add pieces that I think are more appropriate. Now we have this issue where it's digging straight through our main roof here, or our second floor roof. I can go to the roof angle chooser and just adjust it to my liking. This wasn't always the thing. You used to have to enter a cheat to change roof height, so it's really nice to have this. Also because I don't have to have every roof be the same angle. I can have this one be short and this one be tall if I want. So yeah, just a quick thing on auto roof. It can be your friend if you're struggling, if you're stuck. Obviously this is a very simple structure, but if things are getting really complicated, you can use auto roof to help you figure out a good foundation for what you want to do. Okay, now really quickly I want to talk about roof walls. Kind of hard to explain. I'd rather just show you guys. So what I mean is when you have a roof like so, and say you want to add a little covered area out in front, so you add your ceiling like so, or actually let's go ahead and add some columns so we can have a nice ceiling there. And then you go into your manual roof tools and say you add a roof like this and it's too tall, and then you make it smaller. Well, first of all, this build is too small altogether. Let me just extend it a bit. All right, so, and you notice you get these weird like pieces that are like sticking to the main roof, which can be very annoying, but this will only happen when you're building a roof into the walls of another roof. So for example, if I do the same kind of covered area out front for this build here, let's add our columns, add our roof, and that's just lovely. It's not wide enough. Okay, now you see we don't have that issue because I'm building the roof into a wall rather than the walls of another roof. Anyway, my best tip or solution to this is simply just to sledgehammer those walls. And in fact, if you want, you could sledgehammer all of the walls and have it like so. Now in this case, I would most likely just delete the ceiling. And even if you just have this kind of situation where it's just the roof, it will still protect your Sims or the ground underneath from the elements. If it rains or snows, it'll still offer the same protection even though there's no ceiling and no walls on the roof. And yes, you do get this that gap there if you actually look underneath the roof. Oops, sorry guys, my camera's going all over the place. You will get that gap between the column and the roof, but it just depends what you're willing to change about the build to improve the look of it. So you might even get rid of the columns, or I'm going to back all the way up and perhaps if you want, you can use walls. My depth perception is awful, guys. It's so bad. You can use walls to make columns instead and just delete the pieces of roof that aren't attached to the wall. And then you kind of get like a whoops, let me delete the ceiling too. And then you kind of get a more cohesive kind of look because you have that little bit of wall attaching the columns, but then of course still on the other sides you have that weird gapping. It just depends. Just mess with it and see what you like. But yes, if you delete the walls of a roof, you will still have the same protection from the elements underneath. So all right, now let's talk about roofing through walls. And what I mean by that is when you just build a roof directly into the walls of your build. So this is a pretty, I'm sorry guys if you can hear my cats running around. So this is a pretty common situation to have when you have a 2-story build, but you want a covered porch out front. And none of the regular roofs are really cutting it. They look kind of awkward, or it's not making sense for what you want. You can always just build directly into your build. And let me show you what I mean by that. You can have your roof directly, go directly into the walls of the build, and then just adjust the height as you'd like. And yes, with the way that I built this, you would end up with this little like kind of roof skirt, which maybe you want and maybe you don't. But if you don't want the roof skirt, then you will have to, the easiest way to fix that is to adjust your porch dimensions. So the way that I have this, it's perfectly lined up with the walls of the house. As you can see, the floor tiles go straight along the edge there and line up perfectly. What you would have to do is just shrink your dimensions a little bit so that you have 1 square space there around the edges of your porch. And now when you build your roof, now it kind of it gets cut off there at the edge. Hopefully that makes sense. I do this a lot. I think a lot of people forget that you can do this with roofs, and it makes it so much easier to add roofs to those porches. I keep wanting to say patios, but I'm trying to use the right terms because we just talked about it. So but yeah, always remember you can build directly into the walls, and if you get that roof skirt that you don't want, just try to adjust the dimensions of either the building or your patio. All right, I wanted to give a second example of building into the walls of your building by using our veranda example. So we have our veranda all around the house. It's very, very narrow, and I have some supports here on the corners. And in order to add a roof here, we can just take our manual hipped roof tool, draw straight across like so, and then it looks crazy. But of course, just lower the roof height. And any bit of roof that is inside of the walls of your build will disappear because there's another roof over top of it. That's a key thing to remember. So let's say for some reason you just wanted this to be a flat roof, like so. That is not going to work out because it's not a roof. This inside portion will not disappear. You're gonna have to have an actual roof on top to make it an open space that your Sims can actually use. So, and my roof keeps disappearing. Sorry about that, guys. So because we have a roof, it disappeared, and now the space is open. Now, if you really just want that flat roof, and you want to have this the roof like so, that's when I would recommend that you go into your manual roof tool and you utilize these roofs that have the flat edge. Although this is going to be more difficult because I don't have the support that I need. Okay, just a second, let me fix this. Now you lower all the heights of all 4 pieces, and now you can have that flat roof on top. and have the interior unobstructed, if that's what you're going for. And then of course, whenever you're building, depending on the roof you're using, you'll get these little pieces underneath that you can delete. I just feel like they're visual clutter that I don't like to have, but not super important, just something I like to do. So yeah, there's two ways you can achieve that kind of wraparound covered porch look. The next quick topic I want to cover is adding details inside of your roof. So for example, I have a very tall roof here, and you can see the lines of where each wall starts and ends. So right here we have enough space to add an entire window because we have an entire wall that fits here. Hopefully that makes sense. So if I wanted to, for decoration, I can add a window there. Now say I want a window there, but I don't want it to be this tall. Just make sure you add your window first, and then you can start adjusting the height of the roof to what you want it. You can even do that, which is a little bit strange, but you can just adjust it as you want it. Make sure that you add the window first, because if the roof is too low, you will not be able to add your window. And then of course we have these kinds of problems. So make sure you add your window first, and then you can adjust your roof after. Now of course the game also has these neat things called dormers, which are just these little rooms, pre-built rooms that you can throw onto your build, and add some extra detail. And they have them in 3 different widths, like so. And of course, if you don't want to use that, you can always just build your own and achieve the same look. Now let's say you want there to be living space but within the roof, say maybe like an attic or something like that. So you could use a really tall roof, and like so, and just utilize the space that you can inside of it. So for here, we would be able to only make a room about that big, because by the time we get to this piece of wall, it's cut off here at the corner, so we can't have a full room there. And even though, you know, we can build a wall, it doesn't mean it's big enough for a sim to actually walk there, because they need the entire wall space here, if that makes sense. So what do we do then? Of course, I'm sure you only want your roof to be so high. I think it gets to a point where there is a max height on some of these roofs. Like this one can't be higher than 52 degrees. So in that case, I personally would suggest utilizing something called a gambrel roof. And what that is basically like a barn roof. You can start by building your room space as you want it, and from here you're going to utilize this manual roof. You can build out each side and then build a roof on top, and you can adjust the height as you want. Whoops. You can adjust the height as you want. Typically in like a barn, you'd see it kind of look something like this, but this way you can have more living space inside of the roof, without making your roof 80 degrees. So yeah, it's called a gambrel roof. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I usually just call it like a barn style roof. very neat, very nifty for when you want that extra bit of living space. Let's talk about our last topic, which is ultra modern roofs, which basically just flat top roofs. It could also be considered like commercial lot roofs, which is really not a roof. It's just a flat like floor tile type of thing. But of course you can have something like this. Something I like to do to add more dimension and kind of mix things up is using this the split level interior foundation, and they make great roofs. And wait a second, I have majorly messed something up here. 1 second, we're missing some walls for some reason. Okay, now we can add this foundation, and you know, it adds something interesting, a bit more height, makes it look more kind of finished. And you can even go a step further if you want and go into your half walls and, you know, make something cool there. Whenever I'm doing commercial lots or modern builds, I love using this technique to add more layers and more levels so that it's not just completely flat. I think most people do use this stage foundation for roofing their more modern builds. So, or of course you can use fencing or something like that. Even if it's not an accessible balcony, I think that makes modern builds look pretty cool. The thing to keep in mind is whenever you're using this split level foundation, it does count as a floor. So the game gives you a maximum of 4 floors, I believe. Let me see, let me double check. Okay, 5. With Apartment Life, I believe the game gives you a maximum of 5 floors. So let's say that which by the way, even on this 5th floor, I can't go any higher, so I can't actually cover it with anything. So I would really say it's more like 4 floors. And let's say that you've reached your maximum amount of floors, but you still want to add some kind of detail on the top. You can't use the split level foundation anymore. So what I like to do is just use a half wall, if that makes sense. So, and of course, if you want, you can adjust the max floors that the game allows using a cheat. I don't do that because my game doesn't like it. It tends to crash when I'm using that, but and I'll put the cheat on the screen somewhere here in case you want to use it. So you'll see lots of simmers build way beyond 4 or 5 floors, and that's because they've changed the set allowed height of buildings. So yeah. All right, guys, so I think that covers everything I have to share about outdoor additions and roofing. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and I look forward to making the next building tips video. And yeah, sorry if my explanations aren't super clear. Some of this I planned and some of it was just kind of what's the word? It was just kind of on the spot. So I hope you guys got something out of this, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.